Good evening, every pony and every creature. Welcome to tonight's stream. On tonight, this is Dratta Arcana. As always, welcome to DAG, and this is Dratta Talks. And joining me tonight is special guest.
Hi, I'm apparently special guest. But I am also known as Circuit Main of the Brony Show. Hello.
Hello and welcome. And tonight, Circuit Main and I are going to be talking about something that I've been particularly interested to talk about, which is equestrian magic. So, we've seen a lot of magic, haven't we, Circuit Main, in this show?
Well, I don't know. I mean, everything can be explained through science and theorems, and you got gas bubbles and weather balloons. But maybe there can be some idea of magic in Equestria. What with those weird protrusions that are coming from 1/3 of the population, including the royalty, which should probably be checked. I'd imagine that might be cancerous.
I did a podcast a while back talking about how overpowered Princess Luna is, being able to enter people's dreams, and apparently recently I came to the conclusion that she might have ruined a pony's psychology at one point, if a royal problem is anything to go by.
Oh no, that pony's fine. We've actually seen them once in a while. They visit us once in a while at our bar here at the Brony Show. They tend to down about maybe 4 bottles of our strongest booze and pass out on the floor. They're fine. I assure you.
I'm sure they are. And as much as I love Princess Luna being best princess, I think that, what is exactly equestrian magic? Like, it's confusing because in the beginning, you could see that Twilight Sparkle, as a unicorn, had a lot of trouble controlling, 6 or 7 spells, and even then, they were calling them tricks at the time.
Well, I think magic is definitely an interesting thought, basically an interesting approach to actually take this into a serious area. Big surprise. All right, so the idea of magic in Equestria, we do know that it exists. It's there, to the point where you've had evil beings that were trying to suck it out of out of every single species. They apparently created species out of it, if season 9 is to be believed, with Brogar, and also in some regards it can actually be removed from the planet if the conditions are met, as unfortunately Cozy Glow almost pulled off.
Yeah, I don't think the Tree of Harmony was going to let that slide, but we could talk about the Tree of Harmony and that magic another time. That's a whole nother ballpark. But maybe along the same lines, too. It's just, that's a little bit more in depth than I think I want to go into. But let's go back to alicornism for a moment. And I know that when Twilight became an alicorn, they came up with all these theories, and then Baby Flurry Heart just completely messed all that up.
Well, with alicornism, here's what we do know, at least from official sources. With Celestia and Luna, it is entirely possible that they have the same kind of relation as Baby Flurry Heart, where they are not made alicorns, but they're born alicorns. While in official sources, we do know that with Cadence and Twilight, they actually received alicornism through trial, essentially, of proof of oneself.
Yeah.
So, in essence, it could be that Baby Flurry Heart might be the kind of the existence of a 4th pony race slowly merging in with the 3 pony races in Equestria.
Right. Also, we have to remember that Flurry Heart is the baby of an alicorn and a unicorn, which could also be a factor, but that's a whole nother topic. At the same time, I've always believed, and maybe you have a different belief here because different theories are different theories, but I believe that alicorn magic can also not just be achieved via trials and stuff, but I believe that through a chunk of magic being brought into the pony can actually trigger alicornism because they have more magic power than what they can actually hold. And that's my theory. Like Twilight, when she created that supposed really controversial spell, supposedly she created herself where she had unending magic. Now, that might have actually caused her to become an alicorn. What do you think?
Well, I don't think that might be the case. I think basically what Twilight Sparkle might have caused and created is kind of a transmutation spell. Essentially, we saw that she got blasted with all of the elements, basically had magic forced into her. And we do know that alicorns seem to have a special characteristic of being able to work with magic a lot heavier than unicorns can. Essentially, they take it up a notch, if you will. The fact that Celestia and Luna can raise the sun and the moon, Cadence can essentially make ponies fall in love with one another, and with Trixie and the Alicorn Amulet, she basically completely destroyed Twilight, who was a protege of magic, encased an entire town in a glass bauble thing, and also was able to rapidly age just rapidly age both young and old of Snips and Snails. So I think essentially she got blasted with so much magic, she essentially evolved into an alicorn. Alicorn could actually be considered maybe a possible evolution of what happens to ponies after a time, or not just Pegasus, not just unicorns, but any pony who essentially becomes a lot more attuned to the magic of Equestria.
Yeah, and I can see that too. And, one of the things that we see from season 1 all the way to season 9 is I've noticed that in the first few seasons, magic doesn't seem unicorn magic doesn't seem all that powerful. But as we go along, we start to see it get stronger and stronger and stronger. And that's something that I always found interesting. Maybe when they were starting out in the writing, they didn't know what they wanted, or maybe Lauren Faust had a vision of how she wanted magic in Equestria to be, but when she left the show, they were like, well, let's do some more with this.
I
don't know.
Well, that one it's a little difficult. I think unicorn magic was always that strong because we've had instances in the past with Star Swirl the Bearded being and the Elements of Harmony's initial creation. That was not an easy unicorn feat. I think unicorns with a strong perchance to magic do tend to be more on the rare side, and Twilight was still probably more in the learning stages.
Right.
And granted, yeah, we have a lot more magical unicorns to go off of with Sunburst, Starlight Glimmer, Sunset Shimmer in some regards too. Yeah. Trixie not so much, but
Trixie, I have my feelings about Trixie, but
well, Trixie is a stage performer, but she is a stage performer with some perchance to magic. I doubt that she's going to be able to start lifting Ursa Majors and essentially take on the powers of the entire populace of alicorns. It just, she basically had to have a special amulet in order to accomplish even close to that.
Yeah, and I think that Twilight definitely early on was, still gathering her abilities, still learning, her powers and stuff. But as far as Starlight Glimmer is concerned, most OP unicorn in existence.
I don't think so. I actually think Starlight just had momentary power. I think she's basically on par with Twilight Sparkle before her alicornism started to kick in, and Twilight is eventually going to be stronger than Starlight could ever be. But actually, with the way that Starlight just exclaims it, the only reason that her magic was strong enough to literally bend time was because of her emotional state. Essentially, being in such a desire for revenge, as well as anger, frustration, rage, years of pent up aggression. And the fact that she's also akin to magic already. She basically she took that third vitamin pill.
Yeah.
Essentially.
And that adds another layer of the magic that's questionable, is if magic is tied to emotion. Now, if magic's also tied to emotion, does that mean that if one, is feeling really, really down on their luck and stuff, and they're really sad, does that mean that their magic won't work? We see in Rainbow Road Trip this thing called hopelessness magic, So, can that happen?
I think it could. I think it. I mean, as you mentioned in Rainbow Road Trip, we've seen hopeless magic. We've also seen some cases where some ponies get really depressed. There's one in particular, because usually I think ponies tend to have a pretty balanced emotional state, which is pretty much impossible in our world. But except some of the more emotional ponies, like Pinkie Pie, when she gets really depressed, we actually see a change in both her attitude, her color, her entire form changes. Her hair literally loses her poofiness. We've actually got the Pinkamena term because of that. She's probably our best expression that this hopeless magic can and will affect all ponies. The thing is that other than an entire town that it based around the magic, the literal magic of not hopelessness, Pinkie Pie is the only one that has the emotional state to actually show it exists.
Yeah, and I think that every pony is in the show definitely is impacted by the rules of magic, and I'm sure that there are guaranteed rules in magic in Equestria that I believe that unicorns, most creatures in Equestria, possess some kind of internal magic, but I also believe that the land itself, Equestria itself, possesses a sort of environmental magic. So
I think we might be thinking magic a little too much of different flavors of magic. Like you got your orange magic and you got your red magic. I think magic in Equestria is a pure environmental factor, much like water and air. It is a part of that entire world, and it's just tasted different. It's interacted differently with different things and people.
And that would definitely go a long way to explaining how the Tree of Harmony came about and how the Tree of Harmony eventually grew a consciousness. I think that, it's best showed via the Tree of Harmony that the Tree of Harmony is very connected to its environment.
Actually, with the Tree of Harmony, it is definitely strongly connected to its environment, but the big question is, what is the Tree of Harmony? If we're going to bring the Tree of Harmony into the conversation, it's the big question, is it magic? I don't think it is. The fact is that we already established that all the magic was being sucked into a big purple ball that was about to get lodged into the third dimension. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly Rainbow Power came shooting out of the tendrils and literally pulled it from the brink. If the Tree of Harmony was magic, it wouldn't have been able to do that. I think the Tree of Harmony was actually an artifact.
Well, we see in the episode Shadow Play that the pillars planted the Tree of Harmony, imbuing the seed with each of their characteristics. But I've always believed that the tree isn't magic as much as an amplifier of magic. I've always viewed it as an amplifier. So it amplifies the magic of the surrounding area or of the ponies and creatures that it's connected to.
I think there's room for both of our sides of our argument on that one. It could be considered an amplifying artifact. But the fact is that the whole idea of the tree was to be a protector. So I think it just slowly evolved to be able to amplify, but initially that wasn't its role. It was supposed to be more of a shield, kind of an all-around barrier. Though, in all honesty, I'm not sure how that would work because the only thing it seemed to protect was the Everfree Forest and not the entire of Equestria at large.
Right, and I think that if we look back at Shadowplay again, there... I forget who said it, but I think it was Mage Meadowbrook said it, that she couldn't believe that the tree that they had planted would grow so connected to the land. So I think they said that, it was connected to the spirit of the land. So that was mentioned, but aside from the Tree of Harmony, if we go back, unicorns, Pegasi use their magic to control the weather. You can see that when they're down and on a cloud, it rains. When earth ponies, can use their magic to, grow plants and stuff. And unicorns, most unicorns, like Rarity, normally just uses it to sow as if it's like an extra hand or hoof in this case. So,
right.
Why are there some who can use lots of magic and some who just have innate magic that they just use in everyday life? How does that impact Equestria?
Well, here's an interesting food for thought on this. As I mentioned before, I think magic is just kind of like an environmental factor of Equestria. Taking that to effect, if that is the case, it could be the same as someone who knows how to swim in a pool versus an Olympic swimmer versus somebody who doesn't swim at all. Somebody if you get practice in it, you're more than able to apply yourself to the magic and be able to use it, though you may only learn enough to make some basic skills, like with having an extra set of hands, being able to float over small objects. But you could also train yourself to the point where you could tread through it like it's absolutely nothing. But at the same merit, if you don't actually learn to work with it, or maybe can't work with it, then it's just one of those effectors that if you ever try to use it, you might end up exploding. But I think for the sake of the show, you just can't use it.
Yeah, and I can see that. And, another thing, too, is I always wondered, Rarity's been around Twilight long enough and stuff. How come Rarity can't teleport?
I don't think she feels the need to. Or maybe she doesn't have that kind of ability. Not everybody can become an Olympic level swimmer. Right. Twilight has that ability, and she can do it with relative ease to the point where it's actually practically a running joke. Rarity may not have that ability. I mean, she knows magic well enough that she could do well in the waters. But I don't think she has the chops to be able to actually handle being able to do something to the point of essentially being an Olympic level magic caster. And she, there's probably no reason to worry about that either. It's probably only a few so far. Only Starlight and Twilight really have the kind of aptitude that we've seen where they can teleport like that. And whether Celestia, Luna, and Cadence or any other unicorns can, they haven't exactly shown an ability. So it may also be just one of those things that has to be practiced a lot because it could end up going haywire or worse.
Yeah, and also I believe Twilight also said, what happens when a unicorn's special talent is magic, and that's how we kind of have to look at Starlight and Twilight as well, is that their cutie mark is actually their path and their destiny set by their cutie mark is magic. So that probably
either that or they're astrologians.
Right.
Sorry.
So, you know, there's a lot of things that we can speculate about. But, you know, what do you think was the original intent for Magic in Equestria? What do you think the original plan was?
I don't think there was initial. Well, are you talking from with the internal to the show or the show creators?
Well, based on like if we were to look at the first 2 seasons, what do you think was the original intent? Hypothetically, what was the original intent of maybe the creators? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think magic was just meant to be an element of the world. Nothing exactly special. I mean, we see it as something special because we don't have it. But in a world of ponies where magic is essentially so commonplace that they don't exactly bat an eye when two pony princesses are literally responsible for their day and night cycles. And it's so much that, it's just like, oh, she raised the sun again. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Or,
right.
Oh, she's invading my dreams again. What are you going to do? It's just a commonplace thing. It's literally the same as breathing. So I don't, as much as we think that there might be a grand plan, it just might be an is factor. It's just part of that world, which also makes the fact that Cozy Glow tried to suck it up in a big ball and banish it, probably the equivalent of trying to dump all the ocean water out off of the world. It's like that's the stupidest thing you could do.
Yeah, exactly. And I do believe that it really is an is factor. Now, we've done a lot of analyzing of magic, but in the end, I think that if you would probably agree with me, right, that it's really kind of a pointless debate in the larger scheme of things, which is something that I've always felt why people would analyze this, why people review it and stuff. And because it is part of the world. And if it was part of our world, we wouldn't see anything special in it.
I think it's because it's not part of our world that we analyze it so thoroughly, so we have more to go on.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, yes, we could say that it's not part of our world. It's not something we have to worry about, and that's true. But it is part of their world, and if it's a part of their everyday life, being able to understand that what they deal with on an everyday basis that is pretty much second nature to them can probably help us explain a lot more of their mannerisms, or even how ponies act or function in their own world.
Yeah, and I can see that, pretty well too. And, it's just, at the end of the day, it's called Friendship is Magic. So obviously magic has to be in the lore because it's in the title, and yeah.
Nah. It's just friendship. It's friendship is Twilight. Because Twilight is magic. So yeah, friendship is Twilight.
Friendship is Twilight. That's what we're going to rename it.
Need to give in to the Twilight Princess. Everybody loved the purple pony now. Buy her stuff.
She's second best pony. Or best princess.
No, she's first best everything. She's even best Earth pony, even though she doesn't exactly have that.
She's technically an Earth pony.
Well, she also has those traits, but I doubt we're actually technically. I think we have seen her do Earth pony things with trying to run Applejack's farm a little bit, but she hasn't exactly started bucking apples either, or did she? No, she just magics them.
No, she hasn't done any apple bucking. But you know what? I do love Twilight. Twilight is definitely my second favorite pony. I just happen to like Luna more. That's just me. But
well, then the show is dead to me. But no, to each their own. More Twilight for me, right?
Hey, I love Twilight. It's just I like the idea of being able to invade people's dreams. That's just my favorite thing. But that's really off topic, but hey, it's life. I think that magic in Equestria should always be looked at, but I think that trying to find a deeper meaning into it is something that as fans we try to do. And most of us are probably, most of the Brony fandom is older people, and we have a tendency to be more analytical about this kind of stuff. At the end of the day, we got to remember it was written as a children's show. And go ahead.
I think the old adage says it best. We can analyze however we want, but sometimes a cigar is just a cigar.
Exactly. And I absolutely agree with that. Sometimes, at the end of the day, you have to look at it and say, well, this is what it is. And I've seen a lot of YouTubers try to analyze this, and I'm glad that you agree with my viewpoint on it. And that's kind of the heart of what I wanted to do. This episode, I wanted to talk about it and see if it's something that we should really be so obsessed about.
Well, obsessed, no, but it doesn't hurt to analyze and think about it, especially since if you put it this way, if it is an element of Equestria, so does that mean Tarek was literally sucking not sucking the magic out of Equestria, but sucking the unicorn's ability and then the rest of the pony's ability to channel magic? Essentially, was it depriving him of the ability to breathe air in a way? It would explain why in the world they look pretty much completely hazed out and no energy. They literally sucking half of what they use to exist in their world.
See, and that's where I think is that it really is that the unicorns possess some internal magic, but the land also has its own magic. So I think that it's actually a combination of the two things.
I think that the magic is just prevalent, and it's kind of like an internal battery. I mean, we have coming back to water, because oddly enough, water is the perfect analogy for a lot of this. We do have water inside of us, but that's because we drink it.
Right.
We drink it. We nourish ourselves with it. We can go without drinking more of it. If you take it out of us, it's not going to end well.
By the way, are there sea ponies in that water?
Let's pretend that there isn't, just for the sake that if we get into that topic, we're gonna end up frightening a lot of people.
Probably.
But yeah, I think that with the entirety of Equestria, essentially magic is like air water. It's air water, magical air water. Get a bottle today.
It's oxygen water. There we go.
Yes. But yeah, with all of it, every creature and every pony internalizes it. But yeah, when they're deprived of it, essentially they lose a lot of their ability to do what they do, because it's part of their entire anatomy, structure, and purpose. Right.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with that. And it's always fun to look at these types of topics and see what other people think about, these types of things. And, if you have any final thoughts, I'd like to hear them.
Well, magic itself is always an interesting analogy, and it is always good to try to look around and question what we see in the world. At the same time, we have to be ready to accept whatever answers pop into us, because sometimes what we're looking for is something that isn't going to come up. Sometimes we want the water to be able to be set on fire, and that's not going to be an option as much as we'd like it to be, and it just might be something we have to accept. However, I also like to consider the fact that because unicorns use magic, they're probably just more susceptible to it, and that's why Tarek targeted him first, because essentially he was sucking the ones that sucked out the most that could suck water easily before getting the ones that were a little more water retentive.
Okay. Well,
I kind of jumped a little bit there, didn't I? Just kind of all over the place.
It's fine. Well, guys, we're about at time. So, as always, guys, this is Dratta Arcana at Dratta Talks. And if you're looking to contact me, you can contact me via dratta.arcana@gmail.com, or you can contact me at Dratta Arcana Gaming on Facebook. And as always, I have a Discord. Link will be in the description. And as always, this is Dratta Arcana with special guest
Circuit Main of the Brony Show.
And we'll see you guys on the next video. Have a good night, every pony and every creature.